Okay, so we're going to jump in today to chapter 8, which is very straightforward. This is not a chapter that has like a bunch of information that will be foreign to you. This really just kind of formalizes what I feel like is stuff you already know because you understand. You've been through now 7 chapters in marketing, and you should understand a little bit more about kind of how this works. And so you'll just see lots of terms here formalizing the concept of market segmentation, but this is very intuitive. And so I don't think that this will be an overwhelming chapter beyond just learning these formal terms. Um, your market, as you know, are the people who want to pay or buy your product and that they have the money to spend your product. Remember, marketing is all about that exchange that takes place. And so if there is a market, you've heard me say market share. There should be a group of people somewhere that wants your product or your service. And so these people have to be able and willing to buy your product or to pay you for a service. Um, we tend to segment quite a bit based on income because, people have to be able to pay for the goods. And so their income and their ability to do that, we talked about class and wealth distribution in the last chapter, that plays into this a lot. And so that is just the way that it is. Um, a market segment is that grouping of people that are willing to do that. And so marketers will do this in lots and lots of different ways. They will segment by age, they may segment by region, they may segment by income alone, they may segment by a mixture of any of these. And so really when you're looking at market segmentation and the act of separating everything, right? Um, Here you have your market that I just discussed, those people willing to buy. And then you have this subgroup of people that are your segment, this subgroup of people within your market, and you've separated them based on characteristics. And then the segmentation is the verb, right? It's the process of dividing them up between similar and identifiable segments or groups. So, um, why would you want to do this? Because it helps you be able to message and create products and services that resonate with a group of people. And so, if you remember, relationship marketing was something we discussed quite a bit in the last chapter as well. Relationships are important in marketing in general because you have to feel connected to a brand or to a company or to a person that you're doing business with, and that allows you to feel like, okay, if I segment and I'm only speaking to SFA college students, then I can give them a tailored message that is resonates with them very, very well. So a market has to be large enough to be profitable, right? You can't have a market that's so small that it doesn't make you make any money, because the point of any sort of business or any sort of marketing is to be profitable. Um, but it also has to have this ability to grow and change and evolve over time. So, in order to do that, we've got to identify different groups of people, and this can happen in many, many different ways. So, the groups of people may have specific needs. They may have certain buying behaviors. They may have certain demographics. But you've got to be able to reach these people and speak to them in a way that makes sense to them. So, a market segment has to be sustainable, it has to be identifiable and measurable, accessible, and responsive. So that's why I say, to me, duh. Yeah, if they're not responsive and they're not interested in your product, then why would they be a market segment? So for me, this just makes perfect sense. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we all understand that if you have a product and nobody wants it, it doesn't matter if you've segmented your markets in the most beautiful way in the world, it's not going to work. So, like I said, you can use any sort of variables or mixtures of these variables to help you understand kind of how to go about segmenting a market. So you may go by geographics, which could mean the city. It could mean your entire state. It could mean areas with cold weather. It could mean areas with hot weather. It could mean any of these types of things. Demographics, we've learned all about that. The family life cycle, your age, your gender, your income, your ethnicity, your psychographics, which are kind of like saying looking at people's lifestyles and their personality and their behaviors and their values and things like that. So you may market. Let's say there's a Christian bookstore here in Nacogdoches, and they market to people that frequent church. They like to read. They have lots of books that aren't related to church. They just have nice, wholesome books in there. They have they their their segment is based on people who know about them because they've probably been need a book for a Bible study at their church or something like that. They have Christian values. You may have a business that, like a bar and grill, where people that enjoy going out and part of their lifestyle is going out to eat, having drinks, going to watch games on TV, whatever that looks like for them. That's a completely different group of psychographics than looking at those of the Christian bookstore. Now, those people may overlap, but um, any business kind of contextualizes who they're looking at in terms of their behaviors. So for me in my photography business, I have people that like to send out Christmas cards and they like to commemorate occasions with birthday pictures. They have family pictures made. They don't have a certain set of behavior, but since I do work with a lot of families, that is, yes, it's their family life cycle, but their psychographics come into play too because they like to celebrate holidays. I do lots of like themed shoots, and like I'll do a pumpkin shoot and I'll do a Christmas shoot and I'll do like an Easter shoot. And so they like to commemorate those activities with their kids in a different way. And so that would be more of a psychographic. You may have somebody that's segmented on usage rate. So a gaming computer that's made for people who are on the computer a lot playing video games would be different than a computer that I would use to edit pictures and create graphics and do lectures for SFA and manage social media accounts, right? We have different needs and different uses for that product. So they may create a product based on the way that somebody's going to use it. And the same goes for benefits. So I may need a computer that has a really fast processor and a graphics card and all these really cool bells and whistles, whereas my mother doesn't need the same benefits from a computer that I would because of the way that we would use them differently. So those are kind of just some ideas on how markets go about segmenting. So you'll hear the term target market quite a bit. Make sure you know the difference between a market and a target market. A target market is a group of people that you are targeting, and it results hopefully in that satisfying exchange. Excuse me, I got tongue tied. This means that your target market, you're doing what you're maintaining the marketing mix. So that means we're looking at price, promotion, place, and I always forget one: price, promotion, place. Why can't I think of it? Y'all are all laughing at me now. But I'm too far into this lecture to start over. So here we go. The 4 P's. They're looking at the 4 P's. It's going to come to me in just a minute. Don't you worry. But the thought is in the marketing plan, and you probably saw it in the marketing plan, is that you would say, well, we're going to actually go through all of these things and we're going to set the price based on a target market. We're going to set the place based on a target market. We're going to choose our product based on a target market. That's it. Product, price, place, and promotion. See, I knew I would get it. Thank goodness, because I'm the teacher. But that means that is so different than a market. A market is just the group of people that could participate in the exchange, and the target market is who you've chosen, and you're implementing those 4 Ps for that group, hoping for that exchange. So a target market can be done in many different ways, and we're going to kind of talk through these definitions. You can go in and read them. They are just how they sound, but there's a graphic down here that I want to use to talk through them instead of reading off the slide for you. Well, I say that must be in my old PowerPoint. I guess there's a graphic in your book about it. So I'll add that to the unit for you because it helps me think about how people go about it. But undifferentiated means I'm not choosing. I have no approach here that is specific. So it just looks at the group as one big market with no segments, and they use one marketing mix. So when I say the marketing mix, remember those the 4 P's. So that means the price, the promotion, the place, and the product are all the same for everybody. So um, paper plates. Okay, a paper plate is a paper plate is a paper plate. So they don't have a targeted market where they're like, we're going to make special paper plates for people who are older and different paper plates for people that are younger. We're not doing that. They have one product, they have one price point. Yes, they may be different designs and there may be different colors and things like that. But for the most part, they're looking at everybody as one big market because the people that use paper plates could be using them for lots of different things. And so they just make this big generic leap and they create their marketing plan around that. The opposite of that would be a concentrated strategy where we say, I need to find one group of people that I want to target. So for me, if I said, I want to do like, at Easter, I did like Easter pictures with kids with a baby lamb. And like there was a big cross with flowers on it and stuff. And so it was like this really pretty Easter setup. Well, people with teenagers were not bringing their kids out there. It was a niche choice for me to say, oh, if you have little kids and they want to come play with a little baby lamb and put their pretty Easter dress on, then this would be the shoot for you. And it was wildly popular because, well, the baby lamb was really cute, but it was also a targeted strategy. I didn't choose to do a pumpkin patch picture that a family and a couple and an SFA college friends and toddlers and newborns could all sit in front of. I chose a very specific thing and I marketed my pictures in that way because I knew that it would be different and it would target one segment of my market. And so you'll see that happen a lot. SFA is really a great example because you see gear for SFA all the time. Well, guess what? They're not marketing gear for SFA in Huntsville, Texas. They're doing that in Nacogdoches, Texas, and trying to reach SFA students. And so you're part of their target concentrated market because you're an SFA student. And then kind of in between these things is this multi-segment strategy. And this is why I want to find that graphic for y'all, because you could have multiple segments. So my photography business is a great example of that, right? So I have that little kid market where people that have like toddlers and little, newborns, things like that. But then I have weddings over here and I do weddings. And then I have senior pictures. So I was super busy this year with like SFA and high school seniors that needed pictures taken before their graduation. So I have different segments created because they all help me run my business. There's a term called cannibalization, which cannibalism, you all know what that means. That's when the sales from one product cut into another. So I did find that a little bit with my Easter photo shoot. People weren't coming back in April to do another photo shoot because they had already done one with me. And so if I had offered something similar for a similar group of people, like they would have kind of either split my audience and had some do one and some do the other, or I would have had or I had some people that were like, well, I already did one, so I've got to wait a while. And so that can happen too. If you start to segment your market too much, then you just start to split up your pie, if you will. If you think about cutting the pieces of a pie, you just start to cut the pieces of the pie into smaller pieces versus getting more market share. You can read through. I want you to look at the advantages and the disadvantages of each. I kind of just went over one of those, which would be cannibalization. And then let's talk real quick about positioning. So this is developing a specific mix to influence customers, and that helps you with your brand overall. It could help with one single product, but it helps place your product and your grouping of products into the customer's mind. So for me, I positioned myself in a way that people wanted to use my photo shoot because it was right before Easter. It would be great gifts for grandparents. It was commemorative of the holiday. So I positioned myself at the right time of year, at the right price point, and had the right product, right? My setup with the lamb and the cross and the pretty scene was my product. And so I positioned myself to be able to get some new clients and to have more of the market share. This is also how companies like distinguish themselves from their competitors. So I could say there was somebody else who did Easter pictures with like a baby bunny and like Easter eggs and stuff. So well, mine was different. So you can choose what you like, but we didn't do the same thing. And then repositioning is something you'll need to know, and that's how you change their perception of a brand in relation to competing brands. So, for example, at one point in time, Starbucks coffee was known as a coffee shop, right? And we all knew that you could go there and get coffee, but they started offering things that people that didn't drink coffee could go get. So they started offering more food. At one point, part of their exploration was going to be to offer like beer and wine in the evenings because they wanted to reposition themselves to be seen as like not just a morning place, but an evening place as well, to change the consumer's perception in their mind of something they knew. So it's kind of like a rebranding, but it's also just a way to like shift the narrative. So for example, Weight Watchers used to be called Weight Watchers, and if you've seen commercials, that was like it's like a weight loss plan where you count calories and their points and it's all this crazy stuff. But they've changed it to be WW because they didn't like the correlation with like, oh, you have to watch your weight. They didn't think that sounded good in today's terms. And so now they're WW. So they reposition themselves as like a flexible meal plan to help you watch your calories, but it's not something that you're having to be intense about. So they were trying to kind of appeal to a younger audience in that way. So they repositioned themselves. So I hope that makes sense. Like I said, this chapter is short and sweet. And so I hope that this all makes sense to you. Take a look at this chart and I will go dig up the graphic for you. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.